Hello everyone. In this video, let's look at creation of thermometer charts. For that, let me create a query based on this data set. I would like to find out the strike rates of a player against each of the country and compare it against his career strike rate. So country specific strike rate versus career strike rate. So this is typically a thermometer chart could be of much help when I would like to compare my actual data with respect to a target. So I have a target value for each of the years, let's say, and I would like to compare it with the target, or a benchmark number. I want to compare it with my actual number. So that's where here I am trying to do a comparison between overall career strike rate of the person versus country specific strike rate. So for that purpose, I need to set the data right. So by default, I don't have the country specific strike rate. Overall strike rate for the person selected, we have tried finding out as a part of our speedometer chart. So probably if you refer to that or refer to this sheet where we found out the strike rate of the individual person, we can directly continue from there. But now I require country specific strike rate. So let's say let me choose a few countries for this person. So let me select Australia, let me select England, let me select New Zealand, then Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Africa, and West Indies. Let's say these are the countries against which I would like to find out the performance of this person in terms of the strike rates. Alright, so here I would define the value for strike rate against each of these countries and career strike rate. So in this case the career strike rate is a uniform one. So probably let me try to point it to this location. But in some of your data, this target value could be different for each of the years. But whatever it is, you just mention your target value here. So here because my comparison is with respect to his career strike rate, I would like to find out against which countries he has really performed much faster compared to his career strike rate, and against which countries he was pretty slow in his scoring. So I would like to find out his strike rate. So here I would like to use some of the Excel formulas. The most common Excel formula which I can use here is SUMIFs, because I would like to add up the runs specific to this country, and at the same time I would divide by the total balls specific to this country. So I would say SUMIFs. I would go with the runs column, C column, put a dollar, pressing F4. Then I would take the criteria as the players column by putting an F4. Then the name of the player, probably I can match it from this location. So I would match with the name of the player. So this is the player for whom I would like to find out the career strike rate or the country specific strike rate. Alright. Then even the opposition country I need to choose. So I am choosing the I column, and the country I can choose from here because I can drag it. I would like to put a dollar only to the row number. That gives me that these are the runs he has scored exclusively against this country, Australia. Then similarly I need to do the balls faced against Australia. So I can simply copy this formula because most of it would be reused except for instead of adding the runs, I would add the balls, which means only this column I would simply change. Instead of C column, I would point it to E column, which contains the ball space with obviously the required dollar. And I multiply this by 100 to get his the strike rate against the country Australia. Alright, now once I have this data, my data is ready for a comparison between the two values. Against each country, I have a career strike rate and the strike rate against this country. So I would like to put it in a chart which tells the relative performance against which country was much more than the carrier and much lesser than the carrier. So the easier way to plot a thermometer chart is the thermometer chart is more apt typically when you have to compare a data like this, comparison of actuals with a target, and there is no direct thermometer chart in Excel, but we can use it as a combination of two column charts. So that is what we are trying to do. I would select this entire data for which I would like to plot the thermometer, say insert column chart. Alright, so this is a regular column chart that gets plotted. Now how is it becoming the thermometer for us? Alright, let's say the actuals, which is the strike rate against each of the countries, is in blue. So let me try to maintain it with a different color. I press Ctrl 1 to get into the format for that, and I would like to fill that with let's say, yeah, I can keep a red color which will talk about the actuals, or probably a green color would symbolize the actual much better. So let me put this with a green color. Then let the target be identified with a red color. Alright, I would identify the target with a red color. Okay, then where is the thermometer coming up? Now to do that, one step I would do is I would take this target onto the secondary axis. So what is happening is the target is getting superimposed over the original value because there are two axes that are getting created. If I just close this, you would see that on the left hand side there is one axis which is plotting the strike rates, and on right hand side there is a new axis that got created with a new scale which is plotting your carrier strike rate. Now for that, what I can do is to make both the things visible. One thing is I can make this carrier strike rate slightly wider. How do I make that wider? I can increase the gap width. I can decrease the gap width so that it becomes wider. So the gap width probably from 150, I may bring it down, let's say to 50 or something. Right now you see the graph is becoming slightly wider, with the gap between the graphs becoming more and more narrower. So this is one aspect, but now here the green is not visible to me. So one way to do that, make the green more visible here, is make this red more transparent. So again I do a Control 1. In the fill, whatever I have the red color I have filled, I'll make this red color more transparent. Yeah, probably 50-60% transparency. Yeah, this is looking more and more visible. So let me say 60 or 65% as a transparency level. Yeah, looks fine. I'm able to see both the actual as well as the target, which is the carrier. Now, what we are observing is data wise, there are some data points for which actually is much higher than the carrier strike rate. But in most of the cases in the graph, we are seeing that the actuals are lying inside the carrier. The reason being the two axes are actually pointing two different numbers. This is 120, whereas this is showing 200. So one way I can try to address that is select this and simply delete this part. Yeah, now we are getting, in some cases the actual is way above the carrier strike rate. The country specific strike rate is much higher compared to the carrier strike rate, and in some of them it is much lower. Like in this graph versus New Zealand, I see that the green has come out of the red in a very big way, whereas in case of South Africa it has gone in much higher. Okay, so that's the way to look at the thermometer chart. So yeah, we'll do some more cleaning up exercise. I would even remove this part, which is making my graph look slightly more bigger. And another thing which I can think of is this. I can reduce the font and all of this. So let me change the font of it. And yeah, let me reduce the font to whatever extent possible, 6 or 7. And I don't need the grid lines here. Then the real, the actual makeup part I can focus on. Yeah, I'm removing the grid lines. Now probably it's time for me to take this into my dashboard sheet here. So probably I would create one more area here up to this area. I would call this as carrier versus company strike rate. So let me put one more color here. Let me put one background color. Yeah, this is the kind of background color I would like to apply here. So it all depends on your color creativity skills, right? So let me apply this kind of a background color, and here this I say I merge this and simply say country versus carrier strikes. Okay, in this area I would like to plot the country versus carrier strike rates. So that is where I will pull this graph. I'll pull this chart from here. I cut it and I try to paste this here because I want it as a part of this output. Yeah, but yeah, making it fit into this groove, probably I need to do the necessary adjustments. Yeah, I make it even more slightly smaller. Yeah, but it's becoming more and more smaller, it's becoming cluttered. So because there are so many countries for me, so one way I can look at is I can increase the location to one more, right? So what I can simply do is at least up to here I would maintain that color. And yeah, so now I will get this inside here, but all the regular stuff which we have done earlier in terms of formatting the chart area, removing the background, no fill to the chart background, will directly make it overlap there. And at the same time I don't need the plot area also. I would like to even make the plot area also no fill, so that the chart directly overlaps on that. And probably I don't need the border also in this case. So even the border I put it as no line. Now here comes our graph. Yeah, and instead of this cross line and all, I can think of making the countries more as a rotate text upward, which will make my country specific look like that. Or if I think this it's occupying too much of a space, I can make it as a complete. Yeah, I can keep it as it is. So this is one way I'm doing a country specific career performance of this participant, of this player. So one way I can do the remaining kind of makeups to it. Probably the heading I would like to put in a different color, right? And the later part we'll even see how do we write something into this chart. But at this moment I'm at least seeing that against New Zealand, for this player, against New Zealand he is having a very good performance. Probably if required put one border also to this to identify a difference between the chart. And even at this layer let me put up one kind of a border. So this is my thermometer chart. Just to test this out, what I can very well do is I change the name of the player. I change the name of the player. Now I see that the data is changing drastically. So which means my objective is more or less met. So for this person against Australia and England, he is having a lesser career strike rate compared to the other countries. Whereas if I change one more person, I see that this person is having a very good strike rate against New Zealand, but almost much lesser against the West Indies. So that way, and if required, yeah, if I see that this number could be anything, I can simply keep the access and all as it is, not disturb those numbers. And we see that only the green ones which actually come out are the ones where he is having a higher strike rate compared to his career, and where the green is much inside, I can say that he is having the lesser strike rate compared to the career. So I hope this tutorial, this video helps in terms of understanding the plotting of a thermometer chart and the usage of some of the formulas like sum ifs. Thanks a lot for listening to the video. Thank you very much.